All right, welcome back to the channel Accountant. It's where an accountant does some analysis of box sets and other just like nerdy cool stuff about Magic the Gathering. Um, Attention right now. So we are going to hop right into it. Um, so the last set we did analysis of was Double Masters and a year in retrospective, where we double checked and checked the sealed prices, the prices the sealed as well as the card prices on the secondary market of cards. So this one is about Commander Masters. And so this one, the past one was looking backwards. This one is going to start looking forwards a little bit. So this is the methodology that I used. Prices are from TCG Player Median. We use the card number to filter out all variants and precon cards. So basically, there's 436 cards in the set that are not part of those, and then every other number associated with it of the card number relates to like special foiling, as well as if it's part of a precon or not. One thing that is to understand is that these prices will change as cards are printed and as they're put on the market. The expectation is that they will go lower. Same thing with, and sealed boxes might change in price depending on demand as well. So, and I did make a couple of specific adjustments because Double Masters and Commander Masters have different collation as well as like different cards. So, cool. Now that we're done with the sleepy, boring shit that is methodology, let's dive into it. So, values of a values of the cards, we're expecting of the 35 mythics, they average on about $24.40. This is brought up significantly because of some of cards like Jeweled Lotus specifically, which is like $70, which is the hit. However, there's a lot of cards that hit about that $15 range, as well as there's a lot of cards that hit a you know above that, right? 20, 30, $40 cards, right? So you're looking like Demonic Tutor, right? Is another good example of a card that at Mythic kind of brings that price up. So the average value of a Mythic is like extremely high. And the average value of a rare is about $6. And the average value of uncommon is about $1. Of the 135 uncommons and 135 rares, that's the difference. And it's interesting that we have the same amount of rares as uncommons in this set. And we'll get to that in a little bit because it's kind of interesting. Something else is interesting about that. This does assume that there's even pull rates, so that all rares are equally rare, and that all mythics are equally mythically rare, and all uncommons are that way. We know that this is going to be there's going to be a slight difference because of the amount of legendary cards are going to be guaranteed in draft packs, at least one per box, one per pack, I believe. And I'm thinking that the collation is similar for set. So I did not do an adjusted rate for the legendary, for the fact that there's a guaranteed legendary versus non-legendary, because obviously non-legendaries will come in slightly less common than the legendary ones. However, most of the valuable legendaries are also just big commander cards that we want to see anyway. And there's also a large variety of this large set variants in this set because it is a large set of 135 rares and 35 mythics, opposed to 20 mythics and I think 80 rares in a standard set. Um, then you're expecting variances close to double or more. So you should see a big difference between expected if you're only opening a single box versus opening multiple boxes. This is the EV of the set box versus the draft. So currently the draft packs EV is about $17 per pack. EV of a box is about $424, and they currently are on TCG Player for about $280 for a profit and loss of about $144 if you open a draft box. And sets are significantly better at $24.90, basically $25 with an EV of box per 600 per box, and currently selling for about 300 to actually, yeah, I didn't update this since I last looked. It's about $300, 280 for set boxes. Or yeah, no, it's 340. Sorry, 340, 350 is around what they're selling for. So you can actually make like 250 per box opening supposedly. Um, the way we calculated draft is we just said two rares as well as three uncommons um, per box, because that's kind of the stated rate, and then we just added the expected value of each rare, each mythic, and each uncommon. to the box. It's actually interesting that uncommons are actually so valuable at over $1. It's mostly because of things like Lightning Greaves and Ashnod's Altar, and there's like I think like 8 uncommons that are greater than like $2. So they're non-bulk cards, which is pretty rare to see in a set. And as far as like set value, they're because of there's the multitude of variants as well as slots for rares, you average up to 2.88 rares per pack, based off the stated pull rates on TCG Player. So you have that many rares, and then you also have the same amount of uncommons. So the idea is that your draft packs will only have 2 rares, while your set packs will have 2.88 rares per pack. So over the course of an entire box, that just ends up meaning whatever 24, or really 48, times two, like the extra 0.88. So that's why it's so much more. It's because you're getting a lot more rares and mythics in your box. Here's your top uncommons. So one of the things I mentioned earlier was how good the uncommons are. We have Lightning Greaves, Thran Dynamo, Ashnod's Altar, Reliquary Tower, Vandal Blast, Pathrazer, Gulamog, Exsanguinate, Stormkill Dollarnist, Bastion of Remembrance, Arcane Signet, Herald of the Host, Darksteel Mutation, Soul Ring, and Thought Vessel, all over $2. And some of those even reaching like $6 and more, which, like, compared to like a standard set, like on many standard sets of the last like 2 years, there's only like 4 rares that are even over $6, where this product has like multiple uncommons at that price. So you should expect to see those go down in price by a lot, but the complete ubiquity and use across the format is going to keep the prices like at a medium level, right? I don't think Soul Ring's ever going below $1, just because every single commander deck uses it, and most commander players have multiple decks, so they're going to use multiple Soul Rings. Same thing with Arcane Signet. Stormkin Artist has just so much usability in Storm decks, Treasure decks, anything with spells, which is most of your decks. And it's just one of them. Like, it's just a premier card. Exsanguinate's a premier finisher in black, so if you're touching black with any amount of large mana, you're going to use Exsanguinate. Similar to Ashnod's Altar, if you have a sacrifice deck, you're going to run Ashnod's Altar. And if you're going to run a commander deck, you probably will just run Lightning Greaves. There's obviously, I think it's overused, but I think like it's overused because it's used in 100% of decks when it only needs to be in 90% of decks, right? So let's see the future expected value in a year. So last video we talked about how much Double Masters fell by, and fell by about 44%. So after a year, we should expect that the draft boxes be about $240 of expected value, and the set to be $335, and that's after a 44% decrease in value. So even at its worst, in a year you buy the box today, it should be close to about the same price in expected value a year from now, just because the cards are so valuable in the set, and the multitude of high value rares and mythics. So part of what I've heard on multiple channels across YouTube is what the distribution prices are. And these are the prices that stores themselves get it at, that your LGS buys it at. And it's about $320 for set and about $260 for draft is what I'm seeing, right? So what this kind of indicates to me is that WotC very much designed this set, understanding kind of how previous prices acted and moved, such that the for set boxes, that the even though they priced it extremely high, the actual intrinsic value of the cards within them are still going to be greater than distribution price, which means that they're still going to flow through distribution. They don't have to worry about basically stock back inventory, and potentially they can even do an additional print run of the set and see additional value depending on what the realized demand is. Like, you can expect demand and predict demand, but like it's a different thing to actually get there, right? And draft is basically the same story, is that this is really good. Also, the value of the actual product and cards themselves are so high that it actually incentivizes stores to do mass box openings. So I would expect this product, assuming that the singles do not completely crater below like over 50 to 60% in value, that you're going to see a lot of stores, if they don't move the product, they'll just open it themselves and sell the singles. Simple as that. It's such a good value in product that it makes sense for them to do so. Should you personally, as a person, buy Commander Seal product? if you like the insane value and you are okay spending that kind of money, then absolutely, it's a fun and playable draft set. I personally enjoy all of the Commander draft sets, including Baldur's Gate and Commander Legends. Those just they have a lot of really cool interactions. It's good to be able to kind of break the standard limited format by being able to play Commander. You get to play at an even level, and so there's no requirement to have like a rule zero conversation before your games because guess what? All your decks are exactly the same power level. Um, and the financial value is so good that it should last over a year probably of multiple reprints and as well as seeing like multiple reprints of some of the key cards in the set, which we've seen like Ulamog being reprinted a couple of times this year alone. Um, and here's the reason why you shouldn't, right? It's still an expensive item, right? It's dropping $350 for a box of Magic cards, of cards that aren't necessarily specifically for your decks or usable for your decks, might not necessarily be in your budget. It also might not be in your risk tolerance either, right? There's no guarantee that you'll get playable cards. So for like $350, you can buy a lot of commander decks on TCG Player as far as like just the cards themselves. For $350, you can buy at $50 a commander deck. You can buy what is that? Seven precons. So like while there is a value of the valuable cards in the set, you're also not guaranteed to realize that value as a player to play with it. So I think that is one of the barriers for me personally. But once again, like depending on your own financial situation and your own risk tolerance and how much playability means to you versus like trading and how much you enjoy that, because this will stock up your trade binder very quickly because almost everything is going to go into your valuable trade binder because of how valuable the rares and the mythics are in this set. So I would say, leave it up to your own personal preferences. The value is super good. So if you have the money, this might be a good time to get into it. But once again, like everyone's situation is different, and I would never recommend getting into Magic product as an investment. But this seems to be one of the better products to get. So one of the things I noticed when like watching a lot of YouTube content as well as like internet content was that there's a very negative perspective on the Commander Masters product. It is basically too expensive for what it is, and it's inciting some feelings of is this hobby even affordable for me? And I think what's interesting about that question is that many people have answered that question, yes, it is too expensive for me, and then stopped playing and also never got into the hobby in the first place. The increase of price is just new players starting to feel that same experience that players that have been turned away because of the price have already felt. And it's up to everyone's personal preferences to decide, am I getting this much of enjoyment out of this hobby? And if you are, like, continue to do so. And every hobby is going to change, right? And also your engagement can vary based on how you care about it, right? Do you want a 8 precons, 7 precons, or would you prefer a set box that has close to, $400, $500 of value in it? Content creation and negative feedback loops. So one of the big problems with the set is that it's not a good set for store owners. It's a good set for players because it decreases prices, and it's a good set for WotC because it will move product. Having a lot of high value things in an expensive box means that WotC gets to sell a lot of product. But store owners, their margins from 320 at distribution and selling on TCG Player for 340 after fees, shipping, etc., is almost nothing. And seeing like a $3 profit on a $300 investment and having a 1% margin on a luxury product is just something that stores don't really have the appetite for, especially when you think about a standard set where they're getting boxes for like in the low 80s, like 82 I think is something that I've heard, and they're selling the boxes for 110. So getting like a 40% profit versus a like literal 1% profit or 2% profit is just really unattractive to them. And then on top of that, you also have the increased leverage and risk of taking out lines of credit to buy boxes to then flip to their regular customers, as well as putting in tens of thousands of dollars in product to only reach that small return. So it's a very risky product for store owners, and a lot of the content creators are store owners themselves. So when they see it, they also evaluate a product as the final retail point. And I think this product is great for everybody except for retail players, uh, retail entities, right? So I think that is part of the problem with how the set is felt by a lot of the community because of the fact that there is a large voice of them because they are some of the most invested members of the community. Also, the obfuscation of the product. It's really, really hard to understand the expected value of this product. Um, just because of the multitude of variants, the fact that you have multiple different product lines, right? Draft versus set. We didn't even get into collectors, which are a massive can of worms, and I have no clue how to properly evaluate them without even greater investigation. Uh, For me personally, just to do this project, I had to download information from TCG Player. I had to sort it. I had to look up card numbers and realize that that is not it's information on the wiki, but it's not really published anywhere else. And then I also had to look up like each of the individual prices, compare them, and also double check them for reasonableness. I had to do all of this product of basically using my Excel skills as well as having another person review them to double check for accuracy, just to understand that this like what is within and contained within this product. So it's super difficult to understand, like even for me to understand it, and after I put hours and hours and hours of work into this, versus the casual commander or casual player who goes in and is like, all right, do I want a box of cards or not, right? And I don't think the product should be so complicated that it feels near impossible to do a real analysis and understand kind of like what you're financially committing to. um, so I think part of it is the obfuscation leads people to be more convinced with public opinion as well as like video and like video mains on like YouTube or like comment sections on like Reddit or articles that they see on other places. So I think those three things have made the mismatch between the actual value of Commander Masters as well as and between the value of Commander Masters as well as the community like perception of their value of that value. And so here's some conclusions about actually doing the expected value analysis. First is Commander Masters is an amazing set from value and a player perspective. You look at the cards that are within it; they're all extremely playable. Many of the rares are specifically made for Commander. If you open a box, you're very likely to find a new Commander that is something that is good for you to play with. You're seeing some return of some very powerful cards, as well as a lot of staples at the uncommon slot, specifically like Lightning Greaves and Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, and a lot of those cards that are just really important to make a lot of decks tick. And so, from a value perspective, it's really good, as well as from a player perspective, like to play Commander as a draft set is just fun. Um, Wizards is probably actively monitoring secondary market prices and seeding them into sealed product based off, and as well as like curating a reprint list specific to the dollar amounts. And I think when they talk about reprint equity, this is exactly what they're doing: is they're reviewing prices, they're getting a estimate of how those prices will impact the secondary market value, such that they can maintain cards between a certain dollar threshold. And I think they're targeting that stuff specifically because it um, basically just generates more product. And so like if you are going to quote unquote like invest in Magic cards, you have to understand that they are basically trying to keep the value of certain cards as well as like make sure that they have enough reprint equity when they reprint cards so they can sell more boxes and put out, guaranteed chase rares. I think a good example of this was Liliana of the Veil from Dominaria United. It was a $70 mythic when it first came out, and it like went all the way down to $17 just because the reality of playing Liliana of the Veil in a competitive setting was no longer true compared to when it initially showed up in Innistrad. So I think like that's kind of what they're looking at, and so just like be aware of that for your collection. It's a extremely high risk of sale from a store perspective. That's literally just because it's a very expensive product with very small margins. In fact, like like orders of magnitude smaller margins compared to a normal product that a store will normally sell, while also being three times the price of that product. So I think stores are basically being kind of squeezed for this product, and it's not necessarily the best version of this, especially when you consider the direct to consumer model through Amazon that Wizards is currently doing. Community perception is not indicative of actual value. This is an important thing because I think a lot of people are extremely negative on this product, despite the expected value just being mathematically insane. It's one of the best products that a commander player wants. It's one of the best products that a value seeking pack hunter will want. Um, and like there's nothing like obviously bad about this product. There's been some controversy about the precons, but like relative to like just opening steel product, that should not impact like how you view like the rest of the set, right? And it's just one of the better ones, and I think a lot of it was due to that community mismatch of value versus how they actually see it. Most of the uncommons are just really good in the set. I've said this before plenty of times, but like when you have 10 good $2 plus uncommons, it's very likely that between your uncommons, your rares, and like mythics, you're going to get at least a few hits per pack, which is just fun to see. So as well as it's going to drive down prices and make greater availability so that you can build more decks, and you like it doesn't feel as weird to like buy another soul ring when you've opened three soul rings and or like one or two soul rings, and you're like, sweet, I now have additional soul rings that I can then just slot into these new decks that I was building, opposed to like feeling bad about like, why am I buying my 13th soul ring? Like this allows me to get my 14th and 15th soul ring and not really think about it, which is kind of fun, and I like that. So will I personally buy this? I think I'm just gonna buy singles, actually. It's mostly just because I don't want to drop $350 for this hobby at one single go. I'd rather buy the singles. I'm building a what's her face? The discard deck. Turgid. And so I want Rankle, and I want Demonic Tutor, and I'm gonna have like an Ashnod's Altar as well in my other deck, which is the Marnie's Calgar deck. And there's just such a good variety of it. I'm just excited to be able to buy those cards at a severe, pretty heavily discounted price in a couple of months. I've also just have a glut of decks that I like to play, and I'm not necessarily in a place where I need to feel like I need to expand my collection. So I think I'm just going to stick to singles, but I can see why many people will gravitate towards opening product, or buying more singles, or buying the precons and then upgrading them with packs that they've gotten, or attending drafts at their LGS, right? Also, like just my personal life, I've been pretty busy, so attending a draft on Friday Night Magic when I tend to go to more concerts during the summer is something that like I'll probably skip a draft just because I'd rather go to see music. But that's my situation, and I think everyone should evaluate their own personal situation appropriately. And thank you guys for all listening. If you like the video, please comment. If you've noticed any variance between like what you view the expected value to be, please leave a comment and let me know. And like let's have a further discussion, because the more information we have as players, the better off we are as consumers, right? Thank you and have a good day.